Okay, today I will talk to you about some of the work that we have done in the past couple of years in the Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario. We'll just talk about the emplacement history of this Neoarchean chrome nickel bearing Esker intrusive complex in the Ring of Fire. And it will be a little bit more than insight from uranium-lead Zircon Geochronology. It will be also based on the, all the field relationship and the core logging that we have done in the past over there. Just to put you in context a little bit, what I want to show you here with this slide, it's just to show you a little bit the impact of this discovery that was several years ago, more than a decade ago. It's the presence of a large scale chromite deposit that when it will become, in production eventually, it will be, some laser pointer. Yeah, sorry. It will become one of the, a large resources of chromite deposit in the world. If you look in here, this is the location throughout the Superior Province. The Ring of Fire occurred just right here. And what it's interesting to point it out, it's because it's kind of typical Archean greenstone belt that occur in many of the Archean craton. But what it's interesting, it's because it's a multi-commodities that contain, as you can see, large chromite deposit with 6 deposits with known resources. Very interesting magmatic sulfide deposit with the Eagle's Nest deposit, and numerous iron, titanium, vanadium prospect that has been highlighted in many places in the area. In fact, what I want to show you in here is just also in the Superior Province, what is the importance of the Ring of Fire. In fact, if you look for the overall chromite resources, you see that all the chromite deposits associated with the Ring of Fire constitute the bulk resources across the Superior Province. It's a little bit different for nickel. Because, for example, as a lot of people know, a lot of comedite-associated nickel sulfide deposit, for example, in the Abitibi-Greenstone Belt, in the Chibougamau, but also some mafic-associated deposit associated with gabbro. But we can see that even that, the Eagle's Nest and the Ring of Fire, it's kind of a big proportion. It's a big component of the global nickel resources across the Superior Province. Okay, now in here, what I want to show you, it's just to show you a little bit what is the geology in the Ring of Fire. Don't want to go in detail. I don't have time, but this has been subdivided here. All the supercritical rocks have been subdivided in several different assemblages with different ages. But what is interesting and what I want to move on relatively quickly is because most of the deposit, including the orthomagmatic deposit, appear to be associated with what we call the Muketei assemblage, what we can call the Muketei metallotech, that all the VMS, the iron, titanium, vanadium deposit, and chromite and nickel sulfide deposit occur associated with this unit, the Muketei assemblage, or the mafic and ultramafic rocks associated with them. Most of the chrome and nickel deposit occur in this area specifically. In fact, it has been recognized relatively quickly that we were dealing with more than one generation of mafic, ultramafic rocks in the area. And in fact, in this area, we notice quickly from previous date and new date that it's Mesoarchean. But after that, most of these units around in blue and purple are associated with Neoarchean ages, but we certainly have at least 2 generations based on the field relationship. In fact, what it has been highlighted by Jim Mongol in 2010 is because the intrusion right here was dated around 2734. But based on the work that we have done we were feeling that this ring of fire intrusive suite could be probably subdivided in two subsuites, what we call the Copper Lake and the L1 River subsuite. And in fact, one of the reasons we thought we did a fair amount of geochronology on many of those units, and we were hoping that it will be quite distinctive in age. But in fact, what is interesting is because based on more than probably 10 different uranium-layered ages in the area on many of those units, we highlight that the age was relatively consistent. If you look for the overall Ring of Fire suite, it's roughly 4.5 million years for the emplacement. And if we look for the Copper Lake subsuite, it's around 4 millions, and 3 to 3.7 for the Ekwan River suite. That means it's what kind of really interesting. But what it's important about that, it's because this clearly defines a huge magmatic event that occur in the Ring of Fire around that age. Because don't forget, don't have any scale here, but this, it's a strength length of roughly 170 kilometers long to go all around the Ring of Fire structure. Okay, but this is just to show you a little bit more in detail the subdivision, where all the reason behind of subdividing the two different units and the Copper Lake subsuite and the Ekwan River subsuite. In fact, today I will focus mainly on that part. But what is interesting is because the two different suites, the Copper Lake hosts mainly most of the nickel and the chromite deposit, as you can see right here. And in comparison, all the Ekwan River include all the iron titanium mineralization. And the extent of the Ekwan River, it's in blue right here, extend all over across this 175 kilometers strength length. And in comparison, the Copper Lake suite, it's more restrictive, that it's occur mainly right here in the central part, but also in a couple of other parts right there. Now I will focus essentially in here that we regroup as what we call the Esker intrusive complex that could be subdivided in several different intrusion. In fact, this is a blow up of the geology around what we call the Esker intrusive suite. And in fact, we see that we have multiple intrusion that include that intrusive complex. We have the main one that is a black Thor intrusion that it's roughly right here with several different segments that I will talk a little bit more later. And we have the double eagle right here and a couple of other intrusion right there. But it's really interesting, it's all those several key-like ultramafic intrusive body right here. For example, the AT12, C6, AT5, and AT1. Some of those are directly connected and obviously easily connected. For example, the AT12 connected to the black Thor intrusion. This one, the AT1 right here, it's a small fault, relatively 1.5 kilometers displacement, but it's connected with the double eagle complex. But some others are not really obvious connection with other overlying units above. This is some of the, we did, some 3D modeling to try to assess a little bit the architecture. This is, you can see really well, this is mimic the 2D geological map relatively well. And this was kind of consistent. But after that, based on the work that was done in that project, what was interesting is because we tried to reconstruct, in fact, the initial architecture before the movement along the Frank shear zone that it's right here. And in fact, what is interesting, this is the initial setting, how it sits right here in green, not in green, in gray. This is the Frank's fault. And in fact, you have all those skills. What I want to point out, and this is the final reconstruction, what I want to point out is because all those skills are roughly oriented subparallel to all those Proterozoic dike. That means one of the possibility that skill might have been in place in their early structure. And in fact, what it's also interesting based on the 3D modeling, it's because one of the eagle's nests, doesn't appear to be directly connected, or, it's part of the system, but we don't see an obvious connection to the main body that it's the double eagle intrusion. Okay, just to go really quickly about that, it's the detailed stratigraphy of the Black Thor segment. You see all the different unit that has been subdivided in a couple of the basal zone, that it's right here, that include the feeder area. And after that, the all ultramafic series with the lower, middle, and upper series overlined by the mafic series. Don't want to go in detail in that, but it's a little bit, the different rock type that we can see. But what I want to point it out, it's everything in purplish color. It's because it's a lot of olivine rich, ultramafic rocks overlined by a really small mafic portion. And the contact, it's relatively gradational over here. And in fact, this is some of the relationship that you can see, for example, what we call the late Websterite, that's showing that we have multiple event in that emplacement of this formation of that unit. And this is what you have, this late Websterite, that it's intrude, but not a really typical intrusive contact. It's more kind of invasion of this peroxenite into the previous cumulate rocks. Okay, and this is the different type of texture that it's showing all over the place in that area, all in the area around this late Websterite. But what is also interesting is because we see elsewhere that we have other ultramafic that is intruded within the previous ultramafic, and this includes some numerous class that go all along within those units that are picked up along the way. If we look a little bit, we did a little bit more detailed geochronology, that we still have way more work to figure out everything. But what is interesting is because we have, first of all, in the Black Thor segment, we have this unit that it's date, that it's confirmed the age previously obtained by a Mongol, that it was roughly 2734-ish, that it's that one right here. But we have dates that the late Websterite right here, that it's going right here, that one. That means we know that they are pretty coeval, and we see it really well with the previous texture that I show you. We have data also what we call the Big Daddy segment. Again, we have the gabbro, that it's a little bit older than the ultramafic rocks underneath. In fact, what is interesting that I will need to go really quickly, it's a paper by Barnes and Mongol in 2018, that they said that the bladed dike, as we have, for example, at the Eagle's Nest here, is serve as precursor to form a range of eventual geometry forms. And in fact, I think this is what we believe that we have in here. We have Eagle's Nest here, that it's a bladed dike. After that, we have the Schoenlit transition to dike Schoenlit with double eagle, and a trough-shaped sills with the Black Thor intrusion right here. And this is the mode of emplacement that we believe. That means we believe that the Esker intrusive complex appear to preserve all the components of those systems, and it's grow bilateral grow and expansion via magma inflation and coalescence of intrusion to the Esker Lake complex. Okay, and I will skip that one, but it's just show you that some of the unit mineralization could be disturbed by this, and some other are not, for example, right here, and things like that. And to finalize, just want to conclude as a concluding remark that large and very extensive magmatic event for the Ring of Fire 3, that it's subdivided in 2 different units. The Esker intrusive complex, it's multiple discrete coeval co-magmatic intrusive body that coalesce with time. And more importantly, the mineralization appear to occur, the nickel mineralization appear to occur in very high magma flux and highly dynamic bladed shaped dike, and in comparison, the chrome mineralization appear to occur in the less dynamic, still high magma flux, but slightly less dynamic transitional shape of intrusion. Okay, thank you very much.